I respect you. Madison Square Garden. What do you want to... What do you want to talk about? And then Stephanie McMahon comes out and then says, you know, Cody, I don't know why you're surprised to see me out here. This is the house that AJ Styles, no, this is the house that my grandfather built. And then Cody, you know, says some words, and Stephanie says some words about Randy trying to put him over, trying to put this rivalry over before WrestleMania 42. And after that horrendous brawl we had on Friday night, which was 10 minutes of slow punching and Jelly Roll being RKO'd, who had more TV time than Gunther and Royce Keys combined in the last month for whatever reason. And by the way, Royce Keys was at the show last night. They just didn't use him on TV or give him a vignette. So, which is, you know, Royce Keys just gave up his trios championship just to eat some good catering too, man. I bet they have that moose cake, some salmon, lobster. I bet they have all that stuff back in catering. I'm probably putting catering over too much. I don't know what they have back there, but it's probably really good. So then we get Stephanie and Cody talking about their dads, and then Cody's like, "You're right. I'm not like my dad, and just like you're not like yours." But the way he said it, it was supposed to sound like an insult because she slapped him. But at the same time, I mean, if Vince did all these things that that everyone's alleging that he did, how is that an insult? And yeah, but then she slapped him, and then, you know, he said thank you, because I think that was motivation for him to you know, get his motivation for Randy, and, you know, probably punch his jaw a couple more times and do his little shaky shake power up Hulk Hogan style. And then the segment ended, and then we just went to, you know, LA Knight nearly falling off the top turnbuckle when he was doing his entrance. And then Jimmy Uso reached his hand out because he was like, oh no, LA Knight's going to fall. This isn't good. And then we go backstage to see Danhausen and Speed having a conversation about Speed wanting to be uncursed. And then, you know, that was a nothing burger. So then we went to the street fight, the New York City street fight, the New York street fight. But the only problem is WWE street fights are just Extreme Rules matches with the label street fight. No, they don't even leave backstage. These matches never leave backstage. These matches only use steel chairs, kendo sticks, Slim Jim tables, chairs, Slim Jim tables, kendo sticks, trash cans, trash can lids. Wow. And they never leave backstage. And if they go onto if they do leave, and if they do leave ringside, they'll go probably to the, I don't know, halfway to the ramp and then come back. But these modern stages don't really have ramps. They have kind of, the ramp is it's kind of sad how these modern stages are, because they're just mini-trons. I mean, Titantrons don't even exist on the modern stages. It's kind of depressing to look at, to be honest. But yeah, the Usos lose because, you know, I Show Speed hits LA Knight with brass knuckles. So now we got LA Knight playing around with I Show Speed. This is what they have for LA Knight. He was better off not having WrestleMania plans if this is going to be the case. But then we get Logan Paul and Austin Theory as the tag team champions, and Speed being a new member of the Vision. But the only problem is WrestleMania is in 2 weeks, and we have our millionth title change, because we had Cody. We had Cody win back the championship from Drew McIntyre. We had Carmelo Hayes lose his title to Sami Zayn. We had Lash and Nia Jax win the women's United States, the women's tag team championships. We had Logan Paul and Austin Theory win the Raw tag team championships. We had Penta win the Intercontinental Championship, and then we had Miz and Damian Priest win the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. So this whole WrestleMania has just been nothing but shock value, ratings pop, to try to get people to watch. And yeah, that's it. Just devaluing the titles before we get into the show. For whatever reason, WrestleMania season has been the has been the season to where we just see the championship changes we're supposed to see on the show. It's very strange. And then we get Liv Morgan coming down the ramp, and then, you know, a random goon fan who's probably in his 30s grabs Liv Morgan and she snatches away. Security did nothing. And then we have Liv Morgan cutting a promo, and she called she called Stephanie Vaquer's mom a trash whore, pretty much. And then Stephanie Vaquer comes down dressed like Catwoman, pretty much, and then she gets beat by Roxanne Perez, but the crowd didn't care, and honestly, those punches kind of proved why they shouldn't have. Those punches, like the screaming, flailing arms, like the windmill, like that looked bad. But then we get the segment ending with Liv holding up the title like she did last week, and the week before that, 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 and the week before that. And then they had some taped segments separated away from each other, so they didn't even have. This is probably one of the worst builds to a women's world championship match, because they didn't have any rivalry, and they were separate for most of the rivalry. And then when they came back together last week, they just brawled, and the week before that they brawled, and here they're just doing the same thing. It's nothing much really. And then we get. We go to the women's tag team division, which is kind of one of the worst parts of the show, because they don't really have anything creative for the women, and it's all usually botchy and clunky. So you'll see, you'll see their match end in a DQ more than likely, and that's what happened. It was like 8 women in the ring, and they're all botching and trying to throw hands, and Charlotte's dressed like, I don't really, yeah, but something cool to me, I guess. I noticed it was that Lash Legend and Nia Jax were dressed like Clueless, which is a movie from 1995, which I like it. It's 31 years old. It's a really good movie. And then that segment ends, thank goodness. And then we get Brock calling out Obafemi. Obafemi tosses around some jabronis like Italians toss around pizza when they're cooking that dough. And then we get Triple H injecting himself. He can't help it. He injects himself into this feud for whatever reason. No, we know the reason. He can't wait to be on TV. And people are going to say, well, to be fair, because they usually say to be fair when they're justifying nonsense. Well, to be fair, Triple H, Vince McMahon did the same thing, and that's false. Vince McMahon didn't like to be mentioned on TV. Mr. McMahon was only brought onto TV as a character to try, and he said, well, I don't want to be on TV unless it makes me money, damn it. So, that's it, But people try to, justify Triple H injecting himself, like he's all on the commercials, he's everywhere. He's on the advertisements for WrestleMania. It's ridiculous. Like, even when there are stars on the card, on the advertisements for WrestleMania, there's Triple H for whatever reason. He even put himself on the poster. It's ridiculous. And then the dude had an hour and 7-minute Hall of Fame speech last year. The dude's ego is out. He even had his own cover of the game. What do we do? What are we talking about? But this right here, purposely injecting himself into a feud that he knows that the crowd is hot on. And then immediately, as soon as his face was seen, as soon as he was spotted, he was booed, and everyone else included was booed. Brock was booed for leaving, and then Triple H was booed for, show. And then on top of that, if you listen on commentary, they didn't mention him as Triple H. They mentioned him as Paul Levesque, the same name that's on those unnecessary credits, which I don't think show end credits should be on the end of a pro wrestling show. But yeah, his name was on the end of the credits. And they mention his name. Wait, that's Paul Levesque in the ring with Obafemi. He's trying to inject himself, not Triple H, not the character, the man. He can't get past the fact that his career is over, So he just really he had no business in there. Like, the ego is out of control. It'd be another thing if he were Triple H, but since he can't bump or anything because he has a pacemaker, even that, like, you can only go so much. But the fact that he's in there as Paul Levesque, that's a problem. The dude's ego is out of control. But, usually the crowd will let him know, and they let him know. They booed that man out the building. But, the shills will probably be like, well, to be fair, Vince, and then again, Vince never liked to be mentioned. He didn't like Vince and Mr. McMahon are two completely different entities. This right here was the man, Paul Levesque, because they mentioned him as that. The dude, he put less effort into this show booking than he did into putting himself in a segment. The dude put a lot of effort into putting himself in this segment than he did the rest of the show. That's crazy. No, actually, he put more effort into booking himself into Oba and Brock's segment than he did Gunther. Gunther wasn't even seen for a whole month. That's crazy. His priority, the ego, man. You can't run a business like this. That is insane. So then we go to a Finn Balor segment. I had this on mute because I didn't really care about it. And then we go to another exhibition, storyless, pointless match between Penta and Kofi Kingston, because for some reason Penta was the champion, even though that he has no stories, no rivalries, and is going to have a 6-man ladder match at WrestleMania. For the mid card, the men and the women, they just put the titles on people without a real plan for the mid card championship. So they'll just have them in. They'll either have them not defend the championship, become a jobber with the championship, or have constant 2K exhibition matches that the younger fans will think is okay. But, it's not, because since no stories are being established, the championship is just a toy. Bangers. That's all these young people care about, bangers, TikTok trends, goldfish. Actually, goldfish are pretty intelligent. That's a common misconception. TikTok brain. Yeah, there we go. Because bangers can only do you so much if you can't even remember them 3 weeks after they happen. Anyways, Paul Heyman comes out and then the lighting guy is messing up. So he says, well, it's the lighting guy from New Jersey. And then everyone laughed. I laughed too. And then all night he's been avoiding opening his email because he says, I'm from New York. So, Adam, he had the New York accent on heavy, even though that he's usually never really talks with that accent. But then he says he doesn't check his email. And then Adam Pearce comes out and said, well, if you would have checked your email, I would have told you that, well, Boston PD kind of dropped their charges on Seth. And then Seth, thankfully, without his knockoff retribution gimmick, when he had all those hundreds of dudes in the ring with the stupid ski masks and everything, he just had like a trench coat or whatever, hit Paul with the chair again, and then went to stomp him. But then Gunther, kind of just put him to sleep. He kind of mounted him doggy style. And then, whispered sweet nothings into Seth's ear until Seth, kind of just gave and submitted to Gunther after Gunther beat Seth into submission over the table for us all to see. And then after Seth had enough of a fight, after Seth put up a fight, and then kind of just gave up, Gunther pointed to the WrestleMania sign, and then no one popped because we have 2 weeks and you can't build anything off 2 weeks. They had nothing for Gunther for a month, so they kind of failed both of them here. So no one really cares. It's gonna be a match. It's just gonna be two men in the ring. It's just a match, just to have a match, just to fill the card. This match isn't gonna mean anything, and that's unfortunate to say, but. It is what it is. No one cared because this match is random. Seth Rollins and Gunther haven't even interacted with each other since July of 2025. It'll be July 2026 in a few months. So that'll be a whole year of them not interacting up before this point. And the reason for it, we better have we'll probably have Paul Heyman, we'll probably have Gunther saying, I did Paul Heyman a favor, or something like that. But other than that, it's whatever, to be honest. And then, funny enough, this match was teased for WrestleMania 41 back when Gunther was the champion. But then we get Io Shirai versus Raquel Rodriguez. Raquel really needed this. And then, we're having this thing to where we all knew what would happen because Rhea is extremely overpushed. So, and she's one of the favorites, no doubt about it. So we all knew that a tag team between Io and Rhea could only end up in Rhea benefiting from it. So now Rhea is facing the women's champion at WrestleMania for the championship. And we'll have Io Shirai doing almost nothing, I guess. And she's gonna be fighting Asuka over custody of, or the friendship or the love of Kairi Sane. And Kairi Sane's gonna probably give her a hug, and that'll be the end of the story. There's nothing to really be had here. I mean, this is sad. It's just really sad. But then, we have her going for a tope, and then she lands on her neck and brain, and she was stunned. Like, she was like dizzy after that. It was really concerning. And then she lost, but that was really bad. I got scared. I usually don't care about many things like this because I'm not parasocial, but I'm actually hoping she's okay. Yeah, and then we get a confirmation of a fatal four-way tag match that no one's really going to care about, and then a six-man tag match, a six-man ladder match, which is just, I think it's 5-man ladder match. However many men are in this ladder match with no story, it doesn't matter at all. And then we get Adam Pearce confirming that he's going to get his receipt at WrestleMania. Seth Rollins and Gunther will go at it. But I'm like, well, here's the thing that makes no sense. They only interacted once now. So which means does that mean whoever wants to have the receipt now, does that mean that they have a match at WrestleMania now? That's what I mean. They waited until the last minute. None of this makes sense. And then we get, Roman Reigns coming out, and then he's just standing in the middle of the ring. He says, "Acknowledge me." And then CM Punk comes out, and then CM Punk is walking towards the ring, and then they start brawling, and then blah 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 blah. But then out of nowhere, bro, CM Punk almost spears a hole through Petey Williams. That was one of the best spears that I've seen in so long. That looked like a legit shoulder tackle, like a football shoulder tackle. And then, CM Punk gets the best of Roman, power bombs him through the table. It's just a copy and paste bait and switch. That's all. And then, here's one from last week. Here's one from this week. It is nothing special. And then CM Punk starts saying, Roman Reigns. And then the show ends. Yeah, that was about it, really. That was, nothing special, really. It's just a match. But, we might get Austin Theory and Grace. Well, what the hell? We might get Division, Austin Theory and Logan Paul versus the Hardy Boys. And honestly, that would be really cool. But nothing happened this entire night, to be honest, except for Triple H. That was insane. He tried so hard. He did the same thing with Kevin Owens, and I remember Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens had a rivalry. He just had him. Man, the ego knows no bounds. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that because it was it was ridiculous, man. That was insane. And people still defend it with that Vince stuff, but Vince and Mr. McMahon are two different people. But let me know what you thought about Raw. I mean, we're 2 weeks away from Mania, and still nothing happened. But same old, and brawls and DQ finishes and title matches. No, sorry, title changes before Mania for whatever reason. So what are we gonna do at WrestleMania now that all the championships have changed hands? I don't know, man. I don't think they knew either, but that's about it.